Salam, everybody, and welcome back to our show. Uh, Remember to like, subscribe, and also to comment on our YouTube channel, Isaac Moirori. And as we continue with our theme, the main theme of the holy month of April, um, bearing in mind of the three Abrahamic religions, we'll be having a um, special services and dedication to God uh, with regard to salvation of mankind. And so we're going to continue with our sub theme, and this time we're going to look at the second prediction of Jesus, Jesus predicting his passion, or rather his death. And so Jesus moves away from Philippi, Caesarea, or Caesarea Philippi, and he approaches Jerusalem. And in approaching Jerusalem, he decided to talk about his death in the hands of men and sinners and pagans. I think it's unfair. I hate using the words heathens and pagans because, well, they are biblical, but I think it is very harsh. They are very harsh words, and probably they are very derogative because at the end of the day, I know people believed in something even before Christianity and Judaism or Islam. People believed in something. So calling people kafir or pagans or heathens, personally, I really don't like that. And so, as you continue, it's not about me. And so, Mark puts it bare. Jesus speaks about his death, and now we are approaching Jerusalem. This was the most awaited moment in the ministry and mission of Jesus, because you may preach to the rest of the Israel or Palestine, Judea, but without going to the city, you are your actions are in futility. And so he approaches this, and this becomes a wow moment, an aha moment for the apostles. But still, they don't understand why a Messiah had to die. He had to go, the Messiah was supposed to go to the city and conquer, break down the walls of the offices of governor, of Pontius Pilate, and other kings who represented the Herodian kingship, and especially the three sons. But he doesn't do that. And so Luke again, as always, looks at the death and resurrection. But he also shows the failure of the apostles in grasping what Jesus meant. It was not a reality, but it was a truth. So Matthew also looks at this, that Jesus talked about his second prediction of his passion while he was moving towards Caesarea Philippi. But either way, he was out of Galilee. And so it may have been that Matthew did not want the Jews to feel like Jesus had rejected them already, and that he was moving away from his traditional, what we may call home, the homegrown people, or your homeland, or leaving your roots, or he did not want his audience to see as if Jesus had given up with the people who were supposed to, his own people. And so he was going to the city to meet any kind of person, all the immigrants and the people who were highly regarded as, the city people. They are thought to be knowing a lot of things and having a capability of enhancing life by providing job opportunities and having the best education, the best of the best. And so he wanted to still minister. This is Matthew, to the people in the periphery, and for them to see that Jesus had really come for them, and Christianity was not an elitist movement, or rather a message. And so after the second prediction, along the way, Jesus meets this young rich ruler. Like I said, we are going to look at him, and he asks about how to get the kingdom. And so the story has two versions, because this guy was wealthy, and Jesus condemned wealthiness, because wealthiness comes with selfishness, pride, and greed. But again, the apostles never understood, because traditionally Jews knew that when you're wealthy, you are liberated, and you are blessed, just like the way prosperity gospel teaches us, that you are only blessed by God and recognized if he gives you something that others don't have, and especially wealth, good home, good car, good family, good everything, good business, good job. And so for them, Jesus also wanted to move them away from the idea, because the kingdom was not about the wealth of this world. And so just like his messianic mission and kingship and prophecy was not about this world. And so the camel, this is where Jesus talks about the camel, because he brings it as if he is angry. And in Mark 10, brings out Jesus as being angry with his young ruler because of his pride. And so he talks about the camel. And of course, the camels were known. Donkeys and camels used to carry luggages in the Asian Near East. But the eye of a needle, it was literally a place in the city of Jerusalem where it was a hole, where instead of going all through the gate, it was like what we call a shortcut route, or here in Kenya we call it panya route. So you went through the city wall, through that hole, other than going all the way to the city gate. So this place was there. It was a small hole, and probably in relation to the camel, it could not have accommodated people with luggages, because it only fitted average Jew, not somebody who is well built, if you know what I mean. And so the salvation was a generous gift from God. And this is the only blessing that Jesus wanted his people to understand. Not to understand that wealth is going to give you liberation and fulfillment of life. It will never. And so Luke again looks at this from love. And Luke shows that Jesus loved this ruler because of his enthusiasm. But Mark looks at the ruler and he shows that Jesus asked the question and answered. Okay, and especially when he said that I'm not good, because he was called a good teacher. He said, I'm not good. And so this was also to show that we needed not to be proud. We need to be humble. And so Jesus again reveals here, is part of the second prediction of passion. He reveals about the new Israel, and so this is the new heaven and the new earth. that you'll not find in the book of Isaiah in the 40 chapters that were canonized by the Jews, but he reads from Isaiah 65, the second last chapter of Isaiah, as we know it in the Christian canon. And so it was also seen by John in terms of vision. Apostle John, the writer of the Gospel of John, he writes in Revelation 20 and 21 about this new Israel and the new Zion, the new heavens. And so this becomes a prediction and a revelation of a departure from the old order. And so it is very important as we move to the third prediction and the final prediction. In Mark 10, Jesus again looks at explaining why he had to be the suffering Messiah. And so Jesus moves ahead, and he doesn't seem to be afraid of him dying, because he was to die in Jerusalem, but he moves ahead towards Jerusalem. And probably the apostles were looking at him to probably read his confidence and just trying to be sure that for real this is going to happen, because it was unbelievable. But the confidence in which Jesus showed that he was gaining towards Jerusalem really made the apostles very afraid. And so people started now looking at what they will get, because this guy is going to die. And so John and James, the sons of Zebedee, comes and asks Jesus of a piece of inheritance of this kingdom, for them to sit on the right hand side of Jesus in his kingdom, because they knew this is either going to be a military war and a takeover of Jerusalem. And probably because there were people who were living outside, rebels, if you like, who were planning on how to capture Jerusalem one time. So there were very many volunteers. They are called zealots. They were a militia group training and waiting for that one ruler God is going to send them, and is going to ask them, let us get them, seek the Romans. And so unfortunately, from that perspective, you will be able to understand why John and James are starting now to seek for their position in the kingdom, just in case Jesus dies. So they wanted to go to heaven with him and probably have a very special position. And so this brought a lot of disgruntlement, a lot of anger among the other 10. And so they looked at them as greedy people, just from talking to a rich young man, and this rich young man is condemned for his pride, and you guys are becoming greedy and thinking about themselves. But it is very important for us to remember, when they talk about baptism and the cup really symbolizes the suffering Messiah, and you can only find this in Isaiah 51. And so Mark talks of this baptism that was mentioned by the two brothers, which symbolizes death. And now James, as soon as he ascended to the position of the head of the church in Jerusalem and sends Peter to the Gentiles, he became the first martyr among the apostles. And so this was very honorable, because Jesus told them that there are those of you will all suffer. You'll go through this difficult season, and you will taste you'll be baptized in my baptism, and you'll taste from my cup. And so he confirms this to all of them, though it is only the two brothers um, who asked. And you see, now this was not a bad thing. You should not take it as a bad thing, as a greed. So they asked on behalf of the rest, probably sublimely. But you see, after James dies, there is one tradition that says John followed, but that tradition is not accurate, because John writes his gospel way back. It is almost the last gospel, and it is like a summary of the epistles of Paul and the three synoptic gospel, and he writes it in a theological way, and then he does a revelation probably at the AD 100. And so the Orthodox and the mainline church tradition of John being the last apostle to die, and he was never executed because he was blessed at the crucifixion cross of Jesus, that he was to take charge of taking care of Jesus' mother, and also the mother to take John as his earthly son, replacing Jesus, because he was not going to come back. And so he was blessed. And for sure, at some point when Jesus said that there are others who will never taste death, he really meant that all believers, people thought it was John, and probably even him dying a natural death is taken as him not tasting death, because death was actually thought to be the crude murder or suffering that the martyrs went through. And so John tasted death, but in following in the footsteps of Jesus, of the people who never tasted death, and Jesus becoming the first among the liberators of humanity from death. That's why he took up his human body, for him to taste death, but his divinity never tasted death. And so he became the firstborn among the people who are going to live an eternal life, not an eternal condemnation, because eternal condemnation is death. And so most of these believers, we are called to die, not to die. So you die, you sacrifice your life here on earth, you sacrifice the enjoyment of your body, because there is what your body can do that is necessary, but there is what we please our body with that is extreme. So you can do away with the extreme and use the resources of the extremeness of enjoying life on this earth in helping others, becoming generous, taking care of others, so that in return your spirit will enjoy. And this is the reward, and this is the reason why all these religion, the three Abrahamic religions, have fasting, and have the climax of fasting, like Passover, Easter, Pascha, and also Eid. And so the suffering Messiah in 53, as we have seen, you can read 53 is actually a song of the suffering Messiah. Matthew does not say it is John and James that approaches Jesus, but he protects them among his fellow Jews when he's writing the gospel to them, and he brings in Salome, the mother, so that, because women will not bear any blame, because in the first place they never existed and they were never counted. So for her, he puts the blame to Salome for that reason. And of course, the disciples, there was one disciple who asked to go and bury, at this period, to go and bury their dad, which was very important for a son to go and bury their father among the Jews. But Jesus refused. And if you read in the Old Testament, Elijah had to give Elisha uh, the permission to go and bury his father. And so this comes again, and Jesus finds himself in the same position as Elijah. And probably it was by divine order for this to happen, so that Jesus can give a different version of the dead. Let the dead bury their own dead. And this is in relation to what we've just spoken about. This apostle was among the people who were seeking eternal life, the new order. And his father and his family members and relatives and friends were not seeking this. And so the father dies, and he dies as a non-believer, and the other people who are mourning are non-believers. And so this apostle is protected from going to waste everything that he was taught and whatever he was trying to put in action to go and be diluted with non-believers who are going to cry because they don't understand. If you believe, you'll not die, but if you die as a non-believer, you are going to suffer, and this is the death, the eternal death. And so Jesus refuses this apostle to go and bury his father on those grounds. But most people just take the dead, bury their dead, for them to excuse themselves from not going for burials of their enemies or people whom they had bones to pick with. And so we need to really understand that the kingdom was now becoming clearer the more Jesus was approaching his death, but still it was difficult for the apostles to understand. So thank you so much. I'm going to see you next time, and we're going to look at this theme, and we are going to read a little about the Samaritans, and as we move to the Passion. So continue to support us. Thank you for the comments and encouragement. And of course, if there is anything that was misrepresented, be bold enough to point it out so that we can share in this together and move together so that we can bear the right and the good fruits after knowing and understanding our roots and purpose. Thank you so much, and have a good one.